Ranger X is a side-scrolling action game created by Japanese developer GAU Entertainment and published by Sega for the Genesis in 1993. On the surface, Ranger X is a simple side-scroller, but the game blends platforming, run-and-gunning, and mission-style objectives to create one of the more original Genesis games I've played in a while. The main protagonist is Ranger X, a giant mech of sorts with a jetpack and a pulse rifle. The rifle ammunition is unlimited, but the jetpack has limited propulsion marked by a temperature gauge in the lower right side of the screen. You also have a second mech you can control called X Up. As the attract screen shows, the top row of buttons on a 6-button controller gives you control over X Up, while the bottom row of buttons controls Ranger X. Even better, you can combine them. When in this mode, the pulse rifle now homes in on enemies, but your jumping is more limited. At first, the entire control scheme was a little confusing, but it's all laid out in a logical way and isn't too tough to come to grips with. Another cool touch here are the cutscenes. They appear to be 3D wireframe models, complete with scaling and rotation. Sadly, there is no text to give any context to what's happening. It appears you are working your way to the center of an invading mothership, but who knows? The actual gameplay in Ranger X doesn't quite live up to its ambitious nature. It always feels like you're going to take hits, as there isn't always a way to dodge an enemy's firing pattern. This happens as soon as the first level, with these giant structures launching fireballs at you. The boss of the second level has the same problem. The controls don't feel tight enough to really avoid the basic firing pattern, so you just sort of hope you deliver more fire than you receive. At the top of the screen is a radar of sorts that points you in the direction of the targets that must be destroyed to complete the level. This assures you simply don't fly over everything and win. Instead, you have to pay attention to the objective and take out the targets set forth in the mission. Ranger X features a pretty awesome soundtrack, with a good amount of bass and driving compositions that fit the futuristic world and fast-paced action perfectly. Occasionally, there will be some Genesis twang rearing its ugly head, but this is still an above-average score for the platform. The weapon sounds can be somewhat scratchy and annoying, but the explosion sounds are excellent. If Ranger X does one thing well, it's giving you the feeling you are a badass mech hell-bent on destruction. In addition to the awesome explosions, everything goes down with a satisfying fireball. For the most part, the rest of the graphics are above average as well. Ranger X and X Up are animated well, and their blue hues contrast nicely with the rest of the environments. The environments are all great looking, with plenty of detail. The outdoor areas feature a nice semi-realistic style, and the indoor areas feature plenty of industrial touches. Rounding out Ranger X is the secondary weapon. When you link up with X Up, you can switch your secondary fire. Each level features a weapon upgrade that increases your arsenal. These vary in usefulness, and I found myself leaning on the Seeker Falcon, which homes in on enemies and doesn't let up until the target is destroyed. The bar on the right side of the screen represents how much power is remaining for the secondary item, and slowly recharges on its own. Ranger X is a really cool game, but I find as a whole, it's sloppy and never really lives up to its potential. The controls are fine, but the level design is lackluster at best and gets worse with each passing stage. Level 4 is literally a skyscraper, and you simply fly up, take out a target, and continue. It's boring and uninspired. You are almost always going to be taking hits because of the game's design. This could have been a truly standout title with some tighter level design and better mission objectives. Overall, Ranger X is a refreshing title. I enjoy the complex controls and the ability to command two mechs at the same time. The visuals are excellent and do a good job showing off what the 16-bit generation of consoles was all about. The music is also easy on the ears and distinctly Genesis. The gameplay is just never quite satisfying enough. 3 out of 5.